So 10 years ago, I was at the Landscape Biennale in Barcelona, which was an interesting program because it was sort of half Americans and half Europeans, and I maybe incorrectly, I was listening to people, and it was interesting to me because the Americans all got up and they would describe their projects in terms of this is the problem and this is how the process we went through and this is the design. And the Europeans got up and more often than not spoke about the poetry of the site and things. And that was my takeaway. But I have to say, looking at your projects today, it is very interesting to me. I was actually quite taken with the phase shift part because when you describe it, it's actually very rational. These series of layers of land form and water flow and plants and the district links. The tectonics and the morphology of the shapes and the forms, the patterns, is that personal. It's not derived from some kind of rational process, I think. So I'm sort of curious, because you're building big things and you're working with engineers, how you go about negotiating this dialogue between what on one hand is a kind of rational process and on the other hand an intuitive process for you.
Yeah, it's a mix between a very precise question. For example, when someone asks to make 70% of the park porous, and even you cannot put lawn everywhere, so you need to find a way to mix the hard soil and vegetation on. And so that's a very rational question, and you need to reach that goal. You need to reach the goal that you need to keep all rainwater, whatever event it is, on the place. And so you have a precise square meter to draw, precise gradient. So that's very objective and rational. And then when you ask that to 3 or 4 landscapers, you do it very differently.
Yes.
So it means many times it's said, okay, we have data, we have devices, and they do everything and calculate everything. They calculate, but human is human, and translation is it's just your own writing. And you ask 3 different persons, you have 3 different results. And for me, that is the most important. If not, we don't need to ask landscaper or designer. We just give to the machines and the devices, and they'll calculate. They don't need us. So I think the design process for me is the most important. We are translator. Yeah, when you translate a language to another language, it's never the same. It's always an adaptation. Right. You can never use French or English or Japanese in the same way. So it's a way you understand the context, and that is the humanity. And for me, it's the most powerful. Yeah. Even we need to respect very specific briefs, because what I explained, we are not free of just making drawing to make fun. We have very specific goal to reach, and it's good.
Yeah, clearly you're solving the problems.
Yeah.
But also looking at these projects, there is a distinctive vocabulary of form making that you see from project to project, even though the project and the program and the site are different. And I'm struck by the video at the end, and the from what I understand, your early education was in the life sciences, and I'm looking at these sort of microscopic cellular forms, and I'm looking at your forms. There's a porosity to your forms, the perforations or the islands and things that I see again and again, which creates a lot of edge. You have surfaces, but there's a lot of edge you're creating, and I find that very interesting. How intentional is that as edge making, or is it more about shape making, or how does that happen?
No, it's not shape making because the German guy, he writes chaos sensible, and as much layer you introduce, as much possibility of life you authorizes. And generally, in general, the human in general, they just think they are over everything, but we are not over everything. We belong to another system, a larger system. We belong to the planet, and if we don't care, even we don't understand everything, and we don't translated everything to rational languages, we belong to that, and we need to share that. And yes, I am biological background, so in 1 centimeter carré on your skin is 1 million bacteria.
Yeah.
So if each person is aware of that, I think the behavior in the social links change radically, because mostly the people are just, okay, we are here, that's our owner, but we own nothing, we are just in a system. And we're all going begin stars as late as possible, but mineral becomes vegetal and vegetal becomes mineral, and we are becoming mineral too, but in far away, as far as possible. But anyway, so mostly you multiply the skins between different material elements, so you let the system open to happening you cannot imagine, because our mind is limited. It's really limited, more as
I can really see the porosity in the schemes, and certainly in the water retention and your description of the skin and the organisms. But there's also a very synthetic quality, which is actually, I think, what makes it very beautiful. It, it goes to the discussion this morning of what is imitation of nature, and the processes are natural and biologic, but the form making is very synthetic, which I find very beautiful.
It's true, it's a kind of contradiction, because every centimetre carré is, every square meter is controlled. But at the end, it should not look like controlled. That's a little bit contradictory. But if you want to be precise, you need to control everything. But the best situation, like in Bordeaux, or I hope in Louvre, is you don't see anymore the hand of the designer. It looks like just, oh, it happens. Oh, it's bizarre, it's a new place. But the best, for me, situation is you forgot the designer. You just see what happened and you enjoy the places.
That's true of describing a great actor, right?
Maybe.
You see the character they're playing, but you don't see the actor.
Yeah, true.
Earlier we were talking about sort of how you set up your office and sort of and how you select your clients and projects. And you were saying that you don't have a kind of fixed office structure, that with each project you kind of put together the means to execute that project, which is not a typical method for most practitioners. Can you talk a little bit about your office organization and how you work?
I don't select the project as an architect chose me. I do competition. I am lucky to make a much more cultural programs, what opens much more the experimental range of design. You cannot do many things. For example, Botanical Garden of Bordeaux, you cannot do in public spaces. It was a translation of the brief requested, but it's a specific brief addressed to students, to researchers, and to Botany Museum facility. So I would say before I do public spaces much more regular, Saint-Denis, Louise, or other small pieces. And it's true that the Botanical Garden opens the mind to further steps. And each project opens the next field of experimentation. Even each project is a specific answer on a specific brief. Like Taiwan, or like South Korean, or when I do a park in Xi'an in China or in Quebec, it's always linked to the context. And so I don't choose my clients, they choose me.
Yeah, well, pretty nice.
I don't know. Yes, it's true. I don't do many projects on the same time. I work a long time on the same project, minimum 8 to 10 years. Until the end, it's always drawing and drawing and drawing on the construction stage. Because if you're not here to give the interpretation, just nobody can read your plan and nobody understands is in your mind. So it means it's always adapted, but true, we are not a large office. We are never more than 12 and moving between 5 to 12, and it's always a specific team. And I'm very happy to meet different people coming from all around the world and meeting different cultural and background, because I learned to the people working with me, but they learn me too, because it's another background. And I like that, because you are not in a repetitive system. You are always in a live system.
Yes.
It's like performing.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah. Okay. There must be a question or two, I assume, out there.
I have a question. I don't dare because it's so beautiful. But I do it anyway. So, the question is, maybe closer? Okay. Do you have a message for landscape architects? Like, you know, this is very personal stuff, I understand that. That's what I see. Also, there is a for me, a very intelligent methodology behind it. So I thought maybe you also have a message.
Kind of. So I was a student in biology, University Pasteur in Strasbourg. And for me, in my generation, university at that time, so 2 years after bachelor, it was just trained to learn and to repeat what you learn. And so I go to Versailles, and we have that professor Michel Courajou, 68th generation, and coming from art plastic, and he said each day, you know nothing, forgot what you know. You need to learn the new way to learn. And when you come from university, you are trained to learn and to repeat it what you learn. And so every day someone say you know nothing, you know nothing, you know nothing. You just got lost because it's a high school. And when you go to high school, you are supposed to be comfortable and go out and have a job and everything. But nothing happened because at that time, 30 years ago, it was no offices. It was very new landscaping in France, and it was just a few, the professor and the oldest student. So it was very uncomfortable because I don't come from design background. No intellectual background. And when you come out from school, the only way to survive, because you just cry and you just make oh, okay, I know nothing, I come out from school, but I have nothing. My parents pay studies and I have nothing. So the only way we survive is to create magazines, just to show what happens in the school and to continue the process of learning by the presentation of the work of other people. Because I think for me, I never know why I like straight or curve, why I should do that or that. I don't know. So maybe because it's fashioning, but it's not a reason. And I would say I learned as much with the magazine, because with the magazine we were trained to present works and to explain the work to other people, to bring together companies, nursery, client. We wanted not to become journalists. We wanted just to show the process of landscape production. And that we do that 10 to 12 years. And that is a really, really good practice to train your brain, to meet other way to think as yours, to make other practices, expertise, philosopher, artist. And that's really, really good. So speak about something, maybe it's not your ideas, not your sensibility, not your practice, but you need to explain to other people. And you need to try to work with other people that have not the same sensibility as you. And that's a really, really good practice. And then I was lucky made people in École et Hautes Études en Sciences Sociales, so met intellectual, like philosopher, critics of arts like Georges Duberman, Bernard Lepetit, and so searchers who are trained to research. So by practicing such kind of practice, you learn on your own. So for the student, it's very difficult when I'm teaching in Harvard and students are expected to give the solution. And I said, no, I don't give you the solution. I give you the tools, and you found the solution. Because if you don't find the solution on yourself, you will never be independent, and you will do your whole life copy and paste, what is not good. So it's not comfortable for the students, but when they understand, they be independent and prospect their own knowledge and sensibility and go through other practices and other people, what is really important.
So what are you saying, what I understand is to trust on your knowledge, your inner knowledge, more or less.
To train, because
yes.
I understand what is a project at the end of the system. I was lost through the whole school. Yeah. And at the final, when you do the diploma, at the end of the process, okay, I understand it's never finished. It's always ongoing, and always, it's not because you draw a line that it's finished.
So do you also see that as enriching for our profession to engage with different disciplines and all these, because then you get enriched because of their domains, because their point of view? That's what you're saying?
Because it's more and more knowledge is exploding. everywhere. You know, about the plants' intelligence, about a lot of things, about the medicines. No, because our brain is just a small piece, and we just use maybe 10% of our intelligence. So it's just exploding, and so you cannot know everything. So you need to meet other people, and you need to always, you are always. I learn each project. I learn something. If not, I just get boring, and that's a pleasure for landscape. It's when you go in other countries, you learn other cultures through the question you ask, through the project, and that's a very good practice. So it's training. It's never finished, and that it's a pleasure. Yeah, and it's much more a gift when you see that people, even though intellectual, even childs, play with your work or are pleasure or enjoy. So when you reach that, so you mean, okay, I touch something very universal. It's not just fashion. It's just not. They feel well in my places, and it's okay. I don't care about the critics. I reach my goal.
We should give a student a chance to ask a question, I think. You have an enterprising student out there. Are you scaring them?
Maybe, I don't know.
Then I'll refer the floor to you.
Well, so what I hear this morning is that somebody said, I don't remember because my brain is getting a little bit older, but that landscape architects can have a, let's say, great opportunity. I said in my words, yes, there's a great opportunity for landscape architects. Also, again, in my words, this world is falling apart. And we have all these sectors, we have all these domains, we have all these challenges, you know, you can sum them up to piles. And what I see also with your approach on a very, let's say, miniature scale, but it's big scale, but it's also very precise, that we have the intelligence and the capacity and the potentials to really go in this field. And to not stay, let's say, in our gardens and our parks and even not only our urbanization questions, but really go further than that. That's what I see.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, the landscape architecture is a kind of generalist profession. We have squishy boundaries, and a lot of times landscape architects get defensive about that squishy boundary. But actually, the squishy boundary is actually very useful to us because it means we can do different things. And I think that in the schools, sort of the Harvard problem that you described, and it's true of a lot of schools, there's so many demands that the students need to learn all of these technical things that in the end of the day, they don't really have time to think. And actually, having some space in the pedagogic program where a student can take some classes outside or do something else is actually quite useful because that allows them, I think, to be better generalists, to actually have some interests that allow them, it's like your biology background, allows, or just your sort of push to always find some other way of thinking about it. That we need to, in the education, not overtrain people.
It gets more and more interesting because this conversation, because it's not about thinking at all. That's what I hear. What your name? Catherine says. It's about what you say. It's about you don't know, so you don't know, and you know. So it's about. That's why I talk about knowledge. It's a knowledge we have somehow. We can't explore it by just not knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
So we have to know, it's a big paradox. We have to know stuff and then we...
No, and the knowledge changing each generation, you know, what is true today is wrong in 10 years. So you just need to be aware that we are just belonging to a global system and we are not dominant, we are just small pieces.
Thank you, Catherine, for these beautiful lessons. What is remarkable is you talk about your background in biology and also this evidence that we are part of
Use this one, this is louder.
we are part of a large connection with the whole world. But nevertheless, in the case, for example, of the Louvre, this extremely broad acceptation of looking at the world and imagination as a capability to understand what is concretely here, and which is also including the people, the mining history of the site, and as you wanted from the beginning of your talk to say, these people should not be by a barrier forbidden to enter, and on contrary to follow the old tracks of their father works, and then they will find a culture in the Louvre. So that's for me the message or the lessons of Mosbach is this idea of we are part of a cosmos and very large and very, very bacterial dimension is a way not to escape from the human history of the cultural landscape. On the contrary, it's a new poetic and scientific together way of rediscovering a huge set of potentiality. So you opened really fields of operation larger than certain others. Thank you a lot.